All right, let's talk a little bit about the various social factors and activities that affect testosterone. Hey, everybody, I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. Now, I want to state up front, this is just a topic of information. In other words, I'm not telling you that this is going to help with your muscle growth. I'm not telling you that it's going to do any of those things because, quite frankly, minor shifts, even actually relatively major shifts in testosterone within the normal healthy physiological range do not seem to have profound effects on muscle growth, fat burning, any of that. They're very, very, very modest at best. And when I say modest, meaning almost unmeasurable. And they have to be pretty significant. Like a 10% change, a 20% change will produce zero response there, like not even an amount that we can measure. Okay, it has to be very, very large, something like going from 400 nanograms per deciliter, which is near the low end of the healthy optimal range, up to something like 700 or 800, which would be like double that, getting up towards extremely high, right? Very, very high. Like you're talking top 10%, 15% of the population in terms of producing that amount. Okay, and even then, it's a tiny, absolutely tiny effect. Okay, but it's enough to measure. We're talking something like a couple of ounces of muscle per year if you train. So, and maybe 2 or 3 pounds over the course of your entire lifetime. So again, I want to be clear, this is a topic of just informing people because everyone always wants to talk about testosterone and these things that boost testosterone and this supplement or this lifestyle, but they don't talk about the social end of it. Okay, because a lot of this is based upon evolution, evolutionary biology, propagation of the species, winners and losers. It's an interesting topic, and yes, this has been found over the decades to actually be true. So things like competition, okay, kind of a big deal, and who you choose to root for. Sports teams, so a perfect example. In a social environment, it has been found historically that when you cheer for or your team wins a game, okay? I don't care what the sport is, football, basketball, shot put, I don't care. When your team wins and you observe it happening, your testosterone levels go up for men. Now, I don't know about women. I've never seen any data on it, but in men, testosterone will go up. When your team loses, guess what happens? Your testosterone levels go down. Now, this only seems to be for a day or two, but it is immediate. Like it's immediate, it's noticeable, it's measurable. And I've seen numbers as big as, 20% or even 30% shifts. Okay? This happens. So in other words, rooting for the losing team is not good for your testosterone, at least in a transient short-term manner. Now, think about how that could affect day-to-day if it's all the time. You keep rooting for the people who lose, it is literally negatively, in theory, affecting your testosterone. And if you cheer for winners, it goes up. In other words, your testosterone levels seem to want you to be on the side of the winning team. Okay? And it doesn't just apply to sports, it applies to elections. Voting for a candidate who loses an election seems to produce a similar response. Oh man. Now, am I telling people that they should vote based upon who they think is going to win or lose to affect your testosterone? No, absolutely not. In my opinion, that would be silly. It would be absolutely ludicrous to do so. However, simply noting the interesting trend. So again, a perfect example of we can look at data, we can look at trends and say, well, that's interesting and it says something about the human body without us saying, hey, well, this is what I need to do, okay, right? So there is that to think about, though, with your sports teams. Like if your team loses, it's going to have potentially a negative effect. And this is one reason why people get more emotionally invested. People have to wonder, like why do men get so emotionally invested in these sports teams and the cheering sometimes? Well, because interestingly enough, there's a direct physiological hormonal response to it. Okay? And your testosterone could go up or down based on how you cheered. So yeah, your team losing could tank your testosterone, and then subconsciously you get really upset then, because you might detect the pattern and know that maybe you don't feel as good or as energetic when your team loses. So it reinforces a larger emotional response over the months and years, potentially. That's just a theory on my part. Just a theory. I cannot prove that. I do not have data to support that part. How about competitions for you personally? Sports and stuff, absolutely, but what about smaller things like checkers? Same thing. Same thing, winning checkers or a card game. If you win, your testosterone spikes up a little bit. If you lose, guess what? It goes down. So competition seems to be a factor, both at the social dynamic level, whether it's the team or the tribe, because that really is your tribe, isn't it? Right? Because we don't really have tribal life anymore, but our species has historically been there for 95% of our existence, if not 99%, right? It's been about that tribal life. So your tribe being dominant and winning affects it. And that may matter for reproduction, proliferation, things like that. Again, history written by the victors, all right? So, but it's the same thing on the individual level. Winning boosts your testosterone, losing lowers it. Again, could be the situation then to where, sex drive goes up in the winners, more likely to reproduce, more likely to be potentially attractive to a mate, at least in the short term due to pheromone response. All right, the same thing when it comes to aggression. And this is going to be a far more controversial side of it, but again, I'm just reporting the data. There's definitely been data that shows that when a man physically touches a weapon or anything that he perceives as a weapon, okay, we need to be clear there. Does he believe and perceive it to be such? Because, to one person picking up a baseball bat, you may not be thinking of it that way. It's just a tool. Hammer's just a tool. But if you pick it up in a manner that is aggressive and you believe it's a weapon, okay, it matters. In that regard, that seems to at least create a short-term burst in testosterone. Again, what is the potential biological benefit to that? That if a man is put in a situation where he needs to grasp a weapon, he's then more likely to be aggressive in a survival situation. And in theory, that's, again, just a hypothesis. Another one that people aren't going to like, that's been seen in studies over the years that I saw over a decade ago. They had a study to where not only did pornography affect it, but the more violent the porn was. Okay? Any form of porn that was violent caused a surge in testosterone to the man observing it. All right, so again, not suggesting that that's what you should be doing, simply noting the trend. But these are all interesting trends to look at, and I think it goes to show us that something like testosterone, something that so many men are obsessed with and the fitness industry is obsessed with, there's a lot of social dynamics involved with it that we don't account for when we're thinking of just the environment. And it's just something to think about. It's an interesting topic. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.